Good morning, my fellow Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Big Dave. Today, back after his North London Derby exploits, and I was very let down and very disappointed with what I saw on Sunday. Being 3-0 down inside 36, 38 minutes against your biggest rivals in such a high-profile game, one of the biggest North London derbies in years, which could have decided the outcome of both of our seasons, and we just rolled over and crumbled like that in the first half. Nowhere near good enough and nowhere near acceptable, but we do not have time to lick our wounds as we are back on the road, travelling across the capital to take on Chelsea in another massive London derby. And we have to get ourselves back up for the fight because we do owe Chelsea one. Not only do we owe Pochettino one because he got one over on us, but he also took our 10-game unbeaten run and stalled our momentum this season and almost derailed our season since that defeat at our place. So hopefully we do see a lot of fight. Last thing I will say before I get into the predicted lineup, I do think Postecoglou got his team selection to start the North London derby completely wrong, and hopefully he makes a few changes heading into this. He'll have to anyway, because two players that started that game, Timo Werner and Ben Davies, are now out for the remainder of the season. So we will see some changes and hopefully it works out to our benefit. So let's get into it. Retaining his place between the sticks is Guglielmo Vicario, and Vicario was yet again a target from set pieces. The opposition just continued to put a player in his way and obstruct his ability to be able to come for the ball. When is he going to learn his lessons? He allowed Ben White from the first few set pieces to stand there and start fiddling with his gloves, trying to undo it, and simply just allowed it to happen. Didn't say anything, didn't shine a spotlight on it. He has to bring the referee's attention to it and get a focus on it and start almost demanding protection for himself. The set pieces are literally all coming in on top of the 6-yard box. And I get that we can pull out individual players, but that 6-yard box is his area. That's an area that he should be commanding. If he wants them to stop coming in and we wanted to stop being a problem, he has to simply push them players on him, use his arm, free up a bit of space, come out and command that 6-yard box and start collecting balls or punching them away and just dealing with the problem. Now, in fairness to the guy in the second half, when Papamat Sarr was introduced, he did get Sarr back on the opposition to be able to push him away and protect the carry, which did help him. But why are we waiting till the second half of games? Or why are we waiting till it's too late to be able to solve a problem? Surely we should be switched on from the very beginning, and that should be happening from the very first set piece, rather than waiting till we've already conceded two and the game is out of reach. Moving on to left back, and we don't have a natural choice to fill in here with Ben Davies and Destiny Udogie now out injured for the rest of the season. Look, I think Ben Davies one is a blessing in disguise. Personally, I thought he was absolutely atrocious up against Saka in the North London derby. For the goal, all he had to do was swing his head over his shoulder and be aware of where Saka was. Had no awareness about where Saka was whatsoever, which led to their second goal. But also, in front of me in the second half, I literally watched him jockey back 40 yards and allow Saka to come from almost a halfway line right into our box. That's absolutely suicidal defending. You cannot allow that to happen. At some point, you have to pick an area on the pitch before your box, preferably, to go make that tackle. And I did argue for Emerson to come in for that case because I do think he likes to get touch tight, and I think that would have upset Saka. So I think Postecoglou got that decision wrong, and I was a little bit disappointed because, for me, Ben Davies isn't good enough to be here. His days at left back were numbered under Jose Mourinho when he brought in Sergio Reguilon to play there. Why do we still keep persisting with it? And for me, this is the guy we should have started, and it is Emerson Royal. Of course, not a natural left back, but he has filled in there a number of times this season and has filled in very, very well. Okay, you lose a bit going forward down that left-hand side, and he's not going to give you what Destiny Udogie does. I get it. But defensively, he's a lot better than what Ben Davies is. He's proven that centre-back he's better than him, and he's also proven that left-back this season that he's better than him. And I would argue it's a blessing in disguise also because Emerson has been one of our best defenders when he's been on the pitch from set pieces, which is becoming a real problem. We've got players that don't want to go and attack the ball. He's one that will. So I think he will help us in that regard. At right back, Pedro Porro does retain his place. Of course, there was doubts about his fitness heading into the North London derby, but he did play the full 90 minutes, and I think we've no option but to roll him out here again. With what we're missing from Destiny Udogie in an attacking sense down the left-hand side, Pedro Porro is going to have to make up for that down the right-hand side, and he's one of our best creators in this team so far this season in terms of assists, creating goals, and scoring goals. He has to play, and hopefully he can have a huge say on this London derby. At right-sided centre-back, there is no other option because this guy's made the position his own, and it is the Argentinian assassin, Christian Romero, who I would argue should be our captain next season with the display that he put in that North London derby. He was absolutely superb. I mean, he's one of the only players who can hold his head high, as he did take the fight to Arsenal and never gave up, taking matters into his own hands and leading the fight back with a goal, but also leading leading by example on the football pitch. Heading into these games, there's a lot of people that always question how much of a liability he is. But one thing he has shown since that last Chelsea game is that he is matured as a player and he is ready to lead this team in the right way. And of course, Postecoglou has given him a lot of praise since that game, saying he wants more players of Romero's characteristics, of Romero's qualities, of Romero's winning nature. He alluded that Romero wants to win in everything he does, even in training. And for me, that's the way a captain should be. Also, I think it was the penalty that wasn't given that Michael Oliver wasn't going to give. You could see Romero, he was ready to assassinate Michael Oliver. And for me, that's what I want. Someone that's going to go up and challenge the referee rather than just roll over and allow these decisions to happen and accept them. Last thing I will say on Romero, he does have form in these games against Chelsea. Last season, he got away with the Cucurella hair pull, and earlier on this season, he got punished with a red card against Enzo Fernandez. So this will be a true test of how mature he really has come, and hopefully he can lead our team, like I said, in the right way this time. And that left-sided centre-back, it's the guy that makes Romero more calm and Romero makes him more aggressive. It is Mickey van de Ven. And being brutally honest, seeing his pace live is absolutely frightening. The guy is like a freight train. He pulled down a number of Arsenal counterattacks single-handedly in the second half with that pace, and he is a huge asset to this football club. Him and Romero are the perfect partnership, and that's what we should be building our structure off of going forward with these two. They complement each other absolutely wonderfully. Romero knows he can go and be aggressive and on the front foot because anything that comes in behind Van de Ven's there to mop it up. And Van de Ven, I would argue, being aggressive isn't probably the part of the game that he likes the most, so it suits him being there to cover up everything. Avoided an early booking, which really helped him, because when he is making them recovery runs, most of the time he is making these last-ditch tackles, and not having that booking allows him to do it to full effect. Now, one area I do think he needs to improve, and I did highlight this when we signed him, I have concerns about his aerial ability. You see how vulnerable we are for set pieces. You look at the size of the guy and the physique of the guy. I don't think he commands his box enough with balls that come in. Usually players of his size and physique are the first ones to get their head on it, and they almost want to do that job. I think Van de Ven almost shies away from it, and I think if he really wants to truly become the all-round defender, the world-class defender of his generation, that's an area where I think he needs to improve. If he improves that, I'd argue he can become better than what Van Dijk has been. And last thing I want to say on the centre-back partnership, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think we've got it absolutely spot on with Van de Ven and Romero. I think they could become as solid or even more better than what Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen were for Tottenham. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Now, moving into the number 6 role, and Postecoglou did make a number of changes in the midfield for the North London derby. Of course, bringing Pierre-Emile Højbjerg here and Rodrigo Bentancur. I thought Højbjerg actually had a decent game on the whole, but it's just them moments that he keeps having that either costs us a goal or puts us in severe danger. And of course, fairness to the guy, he did get up off the ground and did try and challenge, but it still ended up in the back of our own net. And it just seems when Pierre-Emile Højbjerg does start, we tend to not win the games. And for me, I think we have to go back to bringing in Yves Bissouma. I know there's calls for Rodrigo Bentancur maybe to slot in here, but when it comes to Bentancur, I'll be brutally honest, I was very disappointed with what he had to offer in the North London derby. And I think when Bissouma came on, we looked a lot more assured, but I think we also controlled possession a little bit better as well. And for me, I know there's been a lot of questions surrounding Bissouma's contribution so far this season, but right now, I think it's clear that he is the best fit we have. Moving over to the right side of the midfield tree, and I am going to bring back in Pape Matar Sarr. That's now 9 out of 13 games where Pape Matar Sarr has either been missing or dropped to the bench that Tottenham have dropped points. And I don't understand how everyone in around the club is missing this and not shining a light on how important Pape Matar Sarr is to this midfield tree. When he came off the bench for the North London derby, he wore that jersey along with Romero the way that fan wants it to be worn and represented. He never gave up the fight. His head never went down. When he came on, he got after the ball. He turned over a lot of ball and started driving us forward. Is it any coincidence we looked so much more better when he came into the midfield? And I'm sick of this guy being dropped. I get he's a young kid, and I get maybe he's not as great on the ball as others. I'd argue he's a lot better on the ball than what people give him credit for. But we simply need him in there. He does the legwork and the dog work in that midfield that nobody else wants to do. Bissouma doesn't want to do it. Whoever plays in the creator role doesn't want to do it. And he is an important cog to this midfield, and he needs to start this game against Chelsea. If not, trouble is on the horizon. On to the creative role in the midfield, over to the left-hand side, and I am going to drop James Maddison. His performances are nowhere near good enough. He got an early tackle in the North London derby and shied away from the game. He kept on dropping back deep to receive the ball into positions where he knew he wouldn't get tackled, and it's really annoying me. Okay, if he wants to do that, get on the ball, but start playing it forward. You watch Toni Kroos do it the other night. You watch Modric come off the bench and done it the other night. Why can't we see that from someone like James Maddison? Get on the ball, first instinct, pass it forward, pass it over the top, and just actually try and affect the game properly. Also, him going down and losing the ball for that second goal where Arsenal turned it over from Saka, it just epitomizes where James Maddison is at the minute. It's weak. You know, it's not a penalty, and he has no desire to get up and try and track back and after losing the ball and stopping Arsenal and pulling down the counter. He's just lying there waiting for protection from the referee. I'm absolutely fed up with it. I'm at the point where I actually think James Maddison potentially is holding himself back for the Euros and doesn't want to risk another injury. And for me, when he came off the bench, Kulusevski filled into that number 10 role, and we look so much more better with him there. And on that basis, it's now 5 out of 6 games. Postecoglou has pulled James Maddison off early with Tottenham looking for a goal, with Tottenham trailing, and he's just clearly not doing the job. Kulusevski's been dropped for poor performances. Brennan Johnson, Richarlison, Papa Sarr, and the list goes on. Now it's time for James Maddison to be dropped, and I'd argue it might actually benefit him and give him a kick up the hole. And for me, I want to see Dejan Kulusevski back in there. I think he deserves to start. I think he played very well against Arsenal. On the ball, he was absolutely brilliant. There was no end product despite him playing really well. But I understand why. When we get the ball out wide, we've no one in the box to aim at. There's no presence in the box. There's no one making runs. So it's either put it in there and just give it straight back to the opposition, or go back with it and retain possession and wait to get bodies in the box. So what I would say is don't put it all on Kulusevski. That forward line still needs to be tinkered over the summer. We need to get in a striker and get a presence in the box. And I do think you'll see the old Dejan Kulusevski back. However, this is a huge opportunity for him. He has spoke about wanting to play through the middle, that he sees himself there. There's no better game to announce yourself than against Chelsea. So let's see what the big Dejan can do. Now, moving into the forward line, and of course, Timo Werner is out injured, and he did start in the North London derby, so there will have to be a change here. And we will start with right wing, and I do think Brennan Johnson will be given the nod here. Now, for me, I heard a lot of people saying he had a good game in the North London derby. I think to a certain degree, he was bright. He got on the ball. He wanted to attack his fullback. Great. But that end product is not there. I don't know who he thought he was crossing to in the second half, whether it was James and the Giant Peach or whether it was Peter Crouch. But them, every single ball, I think counted 4 or 5 when we're chasing the game. Air balls straight into David Ray's hands. You know, catching practice for the guy. Nowhere near good enough. He's got to whip that ball in with a bit of intensity, you know, in behind that back four at a level where someone can actually go and challenge for it. And it's my biggest problem with Brennan Johnson. One game, the end product is there, and the other game, it isn't. I'd argue the end product is there when the ball comes from the left and he's making a run in to get on the end of it. But actually looking for him to create goals, I don't think that's there, and that's my biggest problem. Hopefully, he proves me wrong against Chelsea. Moving on to left wing, and I am going to play Sonny here. I think as a captain and a leader of this squad, he should be very disappointed with his overall contribution in the North London derby. I get that he's not a natural striker, but for me, he lacked really the work rate, the intensity, and some quality, especially in the first half or for a large portion of that game when he was up front. It's no coincidence that we looked a lot better and a lot more creative, and we created a lot more opportunities when he did move out to the left-hand side. One thing I noticed is when he moved out there, every time we could get him on the ball running at the opposition and they were scared, he kept on driving them back into the box and helping us create things. And for me, that's where we get the best out of Sonny, and that's where we need to get him back to, which is running at the opposition. Playing him up front, he is losing confidence each and every game we play him up there, and it's not a long-term solution. He's done a brilliant job this season, but let's get him back to his old confident self for this run-in, and let's get him back out to the left wing and see if he can push us on to Champions League football from there, because him being up front has become detrimental over the last while. He hasn't been able to hold up the ball, and the ball keeps coming back. We're conceding a lot of goals from actually attacking scenarios, and it's not good enough. And then moving on to up front, and I was delighted to see Richarlison return to the lineup. Now, again, I think Ange got it wrong. I know Richarlison only had about 60, 65 minutes in him, according to some reports, but I do think he should have started with Richarlison. When Richarlison came on, he led the line well, holding up the ball, fighting for everything, chasing absolutely everything down. It was him that chased Raya down, who delivered that poor pass to Romero for him to capitalise on. But not only that, Richarlison, and I've made this argument time and time again, He's one of our best defenders in the squad from set pieces, just like Harry Kane used to be. He gets back there, he attacks the ball, he wins headers. But not only that, if you can't attack it, he'll go down and win you free kicks and alleviate a lot of pressure. And for that alone, I'd almost introduce him back into this side because set pieces are killing us right now. But also going forward, I felt sorry to him for a large degree because any ball that came in from Brennan Johnson, he had no chance of getting on the end of. However, is it any coincidence we looked a lot better and created a lot more chances as soon as we had a focal point down the middle because we could change up the point of attack. We didn't have to keep going down the sides, pulling it back, waiting for options to get in the box. We could get on the ball, one touch, whip it in. We could put it into them and get wingers, give it back, get wingers running and play them in behind. So for me, he has to start this game. Postecoglou said he is fit and ready to go. He doesn't know whether you'll give him a full 90 here or against Liverpool. My betting is he'll probably hold him back against Liverpool because we know Richarlison loves a goal there. But for me, pride is on the line here. I don't want to suffer 2 defeats in a row against London teams. And I think he has to play here up against that Chelsea physical backline. I know I may sound a little bit negative or a little bit annoyed, a little bit frustrated because I am. I was very let down with what I've seen against Arsenal. And I want to see them up for the fight from minute one in this game. We lack a lot of intensity in the first half of games this season. And that needs to be fixed heading into this game. And I expect a lot more from some of these individuals because I actually think that individually, we've got a lot of great talents here. It's now bringing them together as a team. It's now getting them to fight for each other. It's now getting them to learn from their lessons. And hopefully this Chelsea game can reinvigorate the fan base as well in this fight for Champions League football. Because right now, a lot of us are deflated after this North London derby defeat. I've heard a lot of people saying that the season's over. They've lost interest in it. So it's now up to these guys. It's now up to the guys that Ange Postecoglou picks and puts out there for them to salvage a bit of pride from Tottenham. So hopefully they can do that. Guys, give me your score predictions in the comment section below. Give me your predicted lineup and any other thoughts you may have. As always, come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange we trust. We never stop.